When you are always available, you begin to lose your weight in the world. Your words become predictable, your presence becomes expected, and your absence becomes unnoticed. Like a river that never pauses, your energy flows outward until the source itself begins to dry. Power is not found in constant movement. Power lives in stillness, in restraint, in the quiet ability to choose when to step forward and when to step back. For the next 24 hours, change nothing outside, change only your availability. Do not rush to reply. Let silence exist. Notice how the mind becomes restless, craving to respond, to explain, to prove its presence. Sit with that discomfort. It is the echo of attachment. Observe it, but do not obey it. When you delay your response, something subtle begins to shift. You start to see who truly values your presence and who only consumes it. You begin to reclaim your attention, the most precious currency you possess. In these 24 hours, turn your awareness inward. Watch your thoughts as they arise. Notice how often you seek validation, approval, or connection from others. These are not weaknesses, they are habits. And habits can be unlearned. Speak less, but speak with intention. Engage less, but engage with depth. Withdraw not out of pride, but out of understanding. You will discover that your absence creates space. And in that space, others begin to feel your worth. True power is not loud. It does not demand attention. It is felt in presence and magnified in absence. By the end of these 24 hours, you will realize something profound. You were never losing others, you were losing yourself. And now you are returning. Not by force. Not by control, but by awareness. And once you see this clearly, you will never again give your presence away without purpose. Over-availability reduces your value. When you are always available, people begin to take your time and presence for granted, and your importance quietly fades. When a person makes themselves constantly available, something subtle but powerful begins to shift in how they are perceived. At first, it may feel like kindness, like generosity, like being dependable. You respond quickly, you show up every time, you make space for everyone. But over time, what was once appreciated becomes expected, and what is expected slowly loses its value. It is not because people are cruel, but because the human mind adapts quickly. What is always there begins to feel ordinary. Imagine something rare, a quiet moment, a thoughtful reply, a presence that is not given freely to everyone at every moment. That rarity carries weight. Now imagine the opposite: constant availability, immediate responses, endless accessibility. There is no pause, no anticipation, no sense of earning your attention. And so, without anyone intending harm, your presence becomes background noise. This is where your value begins to fade, not in reality, but in perception. And perception shapes how people treat you. But the deeper truth is not about others, it is about what you are teaching yourself. Each time you abandon your own time to respond instantly, each time you interrupt your own peace to be available, you send a quiet message inward. That your time is less important, that your stillness can wait, that your energy belongs to others first. Over time, this creates an invisible exhaustion. Not always physical, but mental, emotional. A feeling of being stretched thin, of being present everywhere except within yourself. To step out of this pattern does not require conflict or explanation. It requires awareness and small intentional change. When you choose not to respond immediately, you are not rejecting others, you are reclaiming yourself. When you allow silence to exist, you are not losing connection, you are redefining it. There may be discomfort at first. The urge to reply will arise quickly, almost automatically. You may feel as though you are doing something wrong, as though you are being distant or unkind. But this discomfort is only the breaking of habit. It is the mind adjusting to a new balance. As you begin to create space, something quiet but powerful happens. Your presence gains weight again. Your words carry more meaning. Your time becomes something you offer, not something that is assumed. And most importantly, you begin to feel a sense of control return. Not control over others, but over your own energy, your own attention, your own life. Power comes from control, not constant presence. True strength lies in choosing when to engage and when to step back rather than always being accessible. Power is often misunderstood as something loud, forceful, or constantly visible. Many believe it comes from always being present, always responding, always proving their importance through action. But this kind of power is unstable. It depends on constant output, constant validation, and constant attention. The moment you stop, it feels as though everything might collapse. This is not true power, it is dependence disguised as strength. Real power moves differently, it does not rush. It does not react to every call, every message, every demand. It observes, it chooses, and then it acts with intention. It understands that not every moment requires a response, and not every situation deserves your energy. When you are always available, you surrender this power without realizing it. Your time is no longer yours, it becomes shaped by the expectations of others. You begin to respond out of habit rather than choice, out of pressure rather than clarity. Slowly, your actions lose intention, and without intention, power fades. To reclaim this power, you do not need to control others. You only need to control your own availability. This is where true strength begins, not in dominating the world around you, but in mastering your response to it. For a single day, you can begin to see this clearly. Instead of reacting immediately, pause. Let each message, each request, each interruption pass through a moment of stillness before you decide what to do. In that pause, you create space. And in that space, you regain choice. You will notice how often your mind pushes you to respond quickly. It may whisper that you will be forgotten, that you will seem unimportant, that you must act now to maintain your place. But these thoughts are not truth, they are fear. And fear is never a reliable guide. When you choose not to obey this urgency, something shifts inside you. You begin to feel less controlled by external demands and more anchored within yourself. Your time starts to feel like your own again. Your attention becomes something you direct rather than something that is constantly pulled away. This does not make you distant or uncaring. In fact, it allows you to be more present when you do choose to engage. Instead of scattered attention, you offer focused presence. Instead of automatic replies, you offer thoughtful responses. Others may begin to notice this change. Some may feel the difference immediately. Your words carry more weight because they are not given endlessly. Presence feels more meaningful because it is no longer constant. And within you there is a quiet realization. Power was never about doing more. It was about choosing wisely. It was about knowing that your energy is limited and valuable and treating it with respect. In this understanding, you do not withdraw from life, you step into it more consciously. You act with clarity instead of urgency. And in that clarity, your power becomes steady, calm, and undeniable. Silence reveals truth. By not responding immediately, you begin to see who genuinely values you and who only seeks convenience. Silence is often misunderstood as emptiness, as absence, as something to be filled as quickly as possible. Yet silence holds a quiet intelligence. It reveals what noise often hides. When you stop responding immediately, when you allow space between action and reaction, you begin to see things that were always there but never noticed. When you are constantly available, conversations become automatic. People reach out, you respond instantly. And the cycle continues without awareness. There is no room to observe intention, no space to understand depth. Everything moves quickly, but nothing is truly seen. The moment you introduce silence, this pattern begins to shift. When you do not reply right away, you create a pause. In that pause, truth surfaces. Some people will wait patiently, respecting your time and your space. Others will grow restless, sending repeated messages, seeking immediate attention, revealing their dependency rather than genuine connection. This is not about judging others, but about seeing clearly. Silence acts like a mirror. It reflects the nature of relationships without distortion. It shows who values your presence and who simply expects it. At the same time, silence reveals something within you. As you resist the urge to respond, you begin to notice your own discomfort. The mind may become uneasy, searching for reasons to break the silence. It may tell you that you are being rude, that you must reply now, that you will lose connection if you wait. But if you sit with this feeling, you begin to understand it is not truth, it is habit. This awareness is powerful. It allows you to separate genuine intention from automatic reaction. You start to respond because you choose to, not because you feel compelled to. As silence becomes more familiar, your communication transforms. You speak less but with more meaning. Your responses carry clarity because they come from thought, not urgency. Conversations become more intentional, more grounded, more real. And quietly, without force, your presence begins to feel different to others. It is no longer constant noise, it becomes something noticed, something valued. In silence, nothing is lost. Instead, everything that is real becomes visible. Self-awareness breaks unhealthy habits. Observing your urge to reply or seek validation helps you understand and detach from these patterns. Self-awareness begins in the smallest moments, often in places we usually ignore. The instant your phone lights up, the subtle pull to check it, the urge to respond immediately, these are not random actions. They are patterns built slowly over time, repeated so often that they feel natural. But what feels natural is not always what is necessary. When you begin to observe these moments without acting on them, something changes. You notice the speed of your reaction, how quickly the mind moves toward engagement without question. There is rarely a pause, rarely a moment of consideration. It is as if your attention has been trained to move outward the moment it is called. But awareness introduces that pause. As you sit with the urge to respond, you begin to see what lies beneath it. Sometimes it is a desire to be acknowledged, to feel important, to remain connected. Other times it is fear, the fear of missing out, of being forgotten, of losing relevance. These feelings are not wrong, but they are often hidden beneath the surface of quick action. By simply watching them without immediately obeying them, you loosen their control. You begin to understand that you are not your impulses. You are the one who notices them. This understanding creates freedom, not a dramatic or sudden freedom, but a quiet one. The freedom to choose, the freedom to delay, the freedom to decide whether a response is truly needed in that moment. As this awareness deepens, your habits begin to shift naturally. You no longer react to every message, every notification, every demand for your attention. You begin to filter what deserves your energy and what does not. Your actions become more deliberate, more aligned with your own priorities rather than the expectations of others. In this process, you are not becoming distant, you are becoming present in a different way. Instead of being scattered across many interactions, your attention becomes centered. You engage with clarity rather than compulsion. And slowly the need for constant validation begins to fade. Not because you force it away, but because you no longer depend on it. You find a steadiness within yourself that does not require constant reassurance. Through self-awareness, you break the cycle of automatic behavior. And in that break, you rediscover control not over the world, but over your own mind. Absence creates respect and restores self-worth. Creating space allows others to recognize your value while helping you reconnect with your inner balance. Absence is often feared because it feels like loss. The mind assumes that if you step back, you will be forgotten, replaced, or overlooked. So you remain present at all times, offering your attention freely, hoping that constant visibility will secure your place in the lives of others. But what is always present is rarely questioned, and what is never missing is rarely valued. When you create even a small distance, something begins to change. Your absence introduces contrast. It allows others to feel the difference between when you are there and when you are not. This difference is what gives your presence meaning. Without it, everything blends together into something ordinary. This does not mean disappearing completely or withdrawing with coldness. It means stepping back with awareness. It means allowing space to exist both for yourself and for others. In that space, people begin to recognize what you bring, not because you remind them constantly, but because they feel it when it is not there. At the same time, this distance begins to restore something within you. When you are no longer giving your energy endlessly, you start to gather it again. Your attention returns to you. Your thoughts become clearer. Your sense of self becomes stronger, not because others validate it, but because you are no longer abandoning it. There is a quiet dignity in this. You are no longer chasing attention or trying to maintain relevance through constant engagement. Instead, you allow your presence to stand on its own without force. As this shift takes place, respect begins to form naturally. Not the kind that is demanded or requested, but the kind that arises from recognition. Others start to see that your time is not always available, that your attention is something valuable, not something guaranteed. And in seeing this, they begin to treat it differently. More importantly, you begin to treat it differently yourself. You stop offering your time where it is not valued. You become more mindful of where your energy goes. You choose connection over habit, depth over frequency. In this balance, self-worth is restored. Not as something fragile that depends on others, but as something steady that comes from within. You realize that your value was never in being constantly present, but in being meaningfully present. And once this is understood, absence is no longer something to fear. It becomes a quiet source of strength.